Hi, Zizaran here with another League Starter, and this is a collab with Oscrix for Storm Burst Totems. This is a build that he is going to be League starting himself. Looks super solo self-unviable, hardcore viable because that's what he's playing, and it looks like a great way to get your first 4 stone. He said that it's not the best for tier 17s and Ubers, but before we go into the build, let's have a little bit of a video from Oscrix showing us how the build plays for leveling and the endgame.
Hey guys, it's Oscrix. Let's start out by talking about leveling Storm Burst Totems. So you can start leveling this build around level 20, switching to Storm Burst Totems, and you can play it all the way through the campaign very comfortably. At level 20, it kind of has a rough placement speed because you don't have the first lab, but you can animation cancel your placement of a totem with a Frost Blink, so that really helps the clear speed at that point. Going into maps, you're going to have around 200 to 300k DPS, and then going into red maps with your Uber Lab, you have around 1 to 1.5 million, and then going into the end game, easily you can get somewhere between 10 to 20 million DPS, depending on how insane your gear is and all of that. So a really strong build with really good single target. It has great defenses in hardcore, in my opinion. I'm a pretty picky eater when it comes to playing defensive builds, and this definitely checks enough boxes for me to be willing to play it on League Start. So I think it's a really strong choice for League starting, especially in hardcore. Not a clear speed machine at all. So that's kind of the most lackluster part of this build, but really good single target, really good defense, not the best clear, and you get to do all your DPS while running around, so you don't have to worry about stopping to move to do damage. You just run around while your totems kill everything. So really comfortable and beginner-friendly playstyle. And if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to come over to my stream and ask them. Thanks, guys.
If you find our builds useful for League Start, please consider subscribing and sharing the build. It helps us out a lot. So this is Path of Building. It is the third-party software that we use for all our builds. Super important to use this to follow along. And Oscrix put a really lot of effort into doing the same system that you're used to with leveling. Very easy to follow. You're not going to get lost. And we do have the loadouts too. Loadouts basically sync up a skill set, items, and etc. So they're all synced. So we can see here at the end game that we have 7.6 million damage. And is this with crazy gear? Well, I'll hover over it and you can see like this is pretty mild. So obviously you still have a lot of room to grow here with things like a Shaper Shield and a lot of other stuff there. So a lot of upgrades that you can still get. Really good damage, really okay survival. A lot of good things about the build here. If we go to skills, you can see that Oscrix has done the same system here as well. So you're leveling with Holy Flame Totem. We talked about that a little bit already. And obviously you can get the Ancestral Bond super early. So leveling should be super easy on this build. And a cool thing that I know a lot of people appreciate is that it doesn't have like a leveling build component. You're not like leveling with Firestorm and then respecking totems later. You are leveling as the type of build you're playing the entire time, which is obviously a cool thing. Items as well at pretty much all points are just very straightforward. It's like life and resist. And a very important thing, like I said, this is what Oscrix himself is League starting. So at any point, if you're stuck with the build, you're struggling, you want to ask some questions, he's going to be your guy. You can open up his stream. He's going to be live tons at League Start. And you'll be able to drop by, ask questions, and him, people in his community, etc., will be able to help fix whatever's wrong with your build, which is such a good resource to have for your League starter. So for this build, you help Elira for those resistances early. Very nice, convenient for gearing. The Major God, Brine King for your freeze immune. And obviously, if you can, upgrade Glacier for the reduced chill effect. Really nice. Minor God, Soul of Ralakesh makes you not take that extra huge spiky bleed damage when you're moving. So that is what we suggest there. And Oscrix, what would you say are some pros and cons of this build?
I think the biggest pro of this build is that you get to do all of your damage while moving. And the biggest con of this build is that the damage that you do is delayed. So you have to wait for the totem to be placed, and you have to wait for the totem to target and cast. And the AoE of the spell that the totem uses is also not particularly big. So its clear speed is probably its biggest con.
What about survival of your totems?
The survival of the totems in really difficult content like Juice T17s becomes an issue. You can still kind of range with them and continually spam them to get your DPS out, but They get shredded pretty hard in difficult content like T17s. Before that, it's pretty easy breezy. They taunt for you, and you can resummon them, and they don't really die that much.
Are there any things that people could make as an easy mistake on this build?
Switching to crit too early from elemental overload, or vice versa, not switching when you should, can be a point that could make your damage slightly worse. Elemental overload is a pretty important keystone that enables a lot of damage before you're able to really utilize crit, but after you can play crit on this build, it becomes a lot better than elemental overload in the late game.
So
And then I guess like leveling, just making sure that you're getting things as you get them, or as they're enabled for you to get them.
would you say there's like a threshold that you should hit before you go crit then? Like what guideline would you have there?
Yeah, I think that getting enough levels to be able to afford all of those points, and you can see like on my tree here, I have some things like the curse nodes and elemental resistance isn't lowered by curses. These are things that are really good early that you don't really need after your gear covers them up. So after you're able to drop stuff like that and have more points and more crit on your gear, then and crit multi on your gear, then it becomes a lot better to switch to crit. So later in the game,
Yeah.
and somewhere deep in reds typically.
Is there any like minimum crit chance crit multi that you would recommend to people before switching?
Yeah, you probably want to get somewhere upwards of 70% crit chance when you're playing crit. It's like it should be pretty relatively easy to get to that point. And then if you're low on crit chance, you might be able to use like a diamond flask to cover it up a bit while mapping and a little bit for its uptime versus a boss. So you probably
Yeah.
want 70 plus.
And remember, in a clutch, you can also use like the suffix on a diamond flask to be additional crit as well. That can help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other things that are easy to mess up when playing the build?
One of the big ones is that the placement of your totems and where you're putting them is really important because they taunt all the enemies around them, and they have a pretty big radius of that. It's very effective. But if you put them into if you're placing them into a location that you're going to be walking towards, you've kind of created a kill zone where all the monsters in the area are targeting, and if you walk towards that, that could be pretty bad for you. So you kind of want to place your totems not where you're gonna be walking or standing. That's
Yeah.
kind of important. And in the acts as well, you can use Frostblink to animation cancel your totems. Not doing that really slows the campaign a lot until you get your first lab.
So again, that was Storm Burst Totems Hyro by Oscrix. Make sure you check him out. He's going to be streaming loads at leaguestarter. Like, give him some love. Really cool guy, and he's going to be live a ton. So if you're following this build, you have a great source to lean on. So thank you so much for watching. If you like these videos on the collabs, make sure you like give us both some love, throw a sub, and either way, more importantly, try to die less than we do.